Hi grade 8s, this is part 2 of our video series on writing a 5-paragraph persuasive essay, and I'm calling this one Getting Ready to Write. Because even once you've been given your essay writing prompt, you would still need to go through a whole series of steps before you even started to get down to writing your essay. So this pre-writing phase for essay writing can be separated into different steps, and we've already been practicing them. For example, we've already finished step 1, in which you do some research about your topic. Now, for your research, you can look at actual hard copy materials like books, journals, and magazines at a library. You can also look online at different web pages and online news articles. The key thing here is you want to do a good amount of background research because that's going to help you with the later steps of the essay writing process. It's also really important to take detailed and well-organized research notes because these notes are going to be like your raw materials for writing. So it's really important to include information like the title and author of each resource, page numbers if you have them, or if you're using an online source, including a web address. All of this is so that at any point in the writing process that you need to find a particular piece of information, you can easily find it in your notes. After you've finished your research, you move on to step 2. In which you form an opinion, identify your main arguments, and cluster your evidence. This basically means at step 2, you're deciding what side are you going to argue in this essay. That's forming an opinion. Even at this very early stage of writing, you should be looking to see if you have more arguments and evidence on one side of an issue than another. Usually, it's a good idea to pick the side of the essay with the stronger arguments and the greater amount of evidence to write about. As you organize and examine the facts and details in your research notes, you should also be trying to identify 3 strong arguments that you can use to back up your opinion. You also need to sort or cluster your evidence, which just means that you decide which argument each piece of evidence backs up. This step is really important because each of these 3 main arguments, along with the backup evidence, is going to form one of the body paragraphs in your essay. So I've already told you that as part of step 2, you're going to be spending a lot of time thinking about and organizing your evidence from your research, but I haven't really talked about what kind of details make really good evidence.
Huh?
There are a few different types of evidence that can be quite convincing in a persuasive essay. First off, you can use facts and statistics. For example, currently we're working on a practice essay about whether schools should start later for teens. So if you had an article that said 85% of teens say they need more sleep, that would be a statistic. So anytime you're talking about percentages or proportions or probabilities, so really think numbers, that's a statistic. Sometimes a book or article may also talk about a study that was done on a topic. That also makes good evidence. If you can find a quote from someone who is an expert in the area. Now, this would have to be a real expert, someone who had studied a topic or spent a lot of time working in a particular field, but that can also make really strong evidence to back up an argument. Finally, you can also make good use of stories or anecdotes. So sometimes when you're doing research, you'll come across the story of an ordinary person who has been affected by a particular issue, and they discuss their experiences. You can use that in your essay as evidence for an argument. But, and I can't stress this enough, once you've done your research and you have your arguments and you have your evidence, organization is key. For you to persuade or convince a reader of your opinion, they need to be able to follow your thinking, and this is more likely to happen if you organize your ideas and present them in a logical fashion. In a way, it's like giving the reader a clear roadmap to follow. So here's your job for today. You're going to receive a graphic organizer that looks like this one, and you're going to use it to plan out the essay that you would write if given the prompt, "Should school start later for teenage students?" In the top box here, you're going to put your opinion, what you're going to argue for in this essay. It's what you're trying to persuade people to agree with. In this case, it's either going to be, yes, schools should start later for teenage students, or it's going to be, no, schools should not start later for teenage students. Then you're going to look through your notes on the topic and come up with your 3 strongest arguments to convince a reader. So you're going to pick the arguments that you think will make a big impact on people. These should also be the arguments that you have a number of pieces of evidence to support. Once you've found your 3 best arguments, they're going to be typed in at this level of the table. So your first argument will be typed in the box for argument 1. The second argument will be typed in the box for argument 2. And your third argument will be typed in the box for argument 3. Finally, for each argument, you're going to find 3 solid and convincing pieces of evidence and write them in the boxes under the argument. So for argument 1, your first piece of evidence would go here in the top box. Your second piece of evidence would go here in the second box, and your third piece of evidence would go here in the third box. Once you've done that for argument 1, you would do the same thing for argument 2 and then for argument 3. So when you're done, you'll have a really easy to follow structure ready to go for when you write your essay. So that's it for now. A quick look at my resources, and we'll be moving on with essay writing next time.